back so we can go back on our rant. Yeah, stream finished. Great. Oh, sorry guys. We're working on it. Copy link. Let's paste this back over. Yuck. Done. Copy link. Paste. Nope, that's not the right link. Oh god, sorry about this, guys. We'll get back into this. I think it's worth talking about, so
yeah.
There we go. We are back up across the board. So let's dive back into that. You were bringing up a good point about the rotations once OG was in and the potential of Boucher playing with Ibaka.
Yeah, so like I still have the deep dive article I wrote yesterday open, and I was writing about how it was a good spot for Boucher, and he was cheap and all that. But I said the biggest risk is that if VanVleet plays, the Raptors could choose to give additional minutes on the wing to Patrick McCaw and Terrence Davis while sliding Anunoby to the 4 for more minutes.
Yep.
Once that was the starting lineup, it was very clear that's what they were doing, and so I said it on the show with Alex. Alex was like, this is when they said McCall was starting. He was like, this is terrible news for Hollis-Jefferson. I said, I think it's even worse for Boucher because they could have closed Hollis-Jefferson over McCall. That was probably like a coin flip. But once they started Anunoby at the 4, you assume Hollis-Jefferson is getting the backup 4 minutes. Where are the extra minutes for Boucher coming from?
Yeah, it's I could not believe that ownership held. Actually, it would be a good, interesting thing. How did he end up as the 150 maxers?
So we normally, I know the 3 people I looked at today were all very, very underweight.
53%.
Wow. That's crazy to me.
I don't understand it. I really, really don't understand it. I mean, how many minutes do you have to be assuming that Serge Ibaka and Chris Boucher play for that to end up happening? 4 or 5?
Probably like 6.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you probably have to get Boucher to 20, 22 minutes.
Right.
And so, I mean, I guess the other way that it could have gone was if you were projecting Ibaka for like 30 minutes. Then you have Boucher at 18.
I had him at 31 and 17.
I had him at... Originally, I had 36 and 12, and then I was like, Alex laughed at my 36, so I made it 34 and 14. Played 36, by the way.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I didn't think that he would. He just didn't seem like the guy that they were going to run into the ground like that.
He played 19 and a half minutes in the second half once Gasol got hurt.
I try not to pay too much. Like, I know that sounds ridiculous, but when it breaks in the middle of the game, I think you just plug the holes in the dam.
I agree. But also Nurse just runs his guys.
That's true. I didn't know if Ibaka would be the exception to that since he doesn't really play a ton usually. Ultimately, it didn't matter. Like, I played a bunch of Serge Ibaka, and I'm happy about that as well. So, not nearly as much as I would have liked, but neutral to the field. That's one of the weirder chalk plays of the day. Or of the season, probably.
Yeah. Hollis-Jefferson being chalk was really weird to me, too. I had a decent amount, but I actually thought that when he wasn't starting, I thought for sure his ownership was going to come down. And so I was kind of trying to not over-project, but make sure I got the potential that he got closing minutes. So it was really weird. Like, I was underweight on him, but I had more of him than Boucher. It was really weird to me that he held it 30+% too.
So that one I held because I didn't really know how many minutes he was going to play.
Right. Yeah, same for me.
I think I ended up with 26 on him. And on FanDuel, he was 3,600. So at that point, I didn't really care at all. Way more confident.
I went 25% on DraftKings.
Okay. Yeah, Alex had 8 there.
And I mean, he was fine.
Yeah. Look, none of those plays were going to hurt you at all,
right?
Ultimately.
He was different than Boucher in that, no, obviously the prices were slightly different. But he was different than Boucher in that the baseline for Hollis-Jefferson was still like 18 to 20 minutes. And if he closes over McCall, you're looking at like 24 to 26. Yep. Boucher, it was the baseline is like 12 to 14 backing up Ibaka. It's pretty unlikely that he plays alongside Ibaka once we got that starting lineup. So his additional minutes start to come from like Ibaka foul trouble or something. So it was a much thinner path to success for Boucher than it was for Hollis-Jefferson.
And we've got Langston Galloway. Alex was over the field slightly. You were massively over. I finished on DraftKings with 80%, so I beat you by one additional lineup out of 150. He stunk, and it didn't matter at all because it rarely matters at that price tag. It doesn't matter that Boucher stunk either. Like you can still get there.
Right. It doesn't help you, but it doesn't kill you. Like I had one lineup that was actually pretty decent that had all of Wanamaker, Galloway, and Boucher. Every other player in the lineup scored like 45 plus points.
Kobe for MVP finished 4th and 7th in this contest with Chris Boucher in the lineup.
Yeah. That's the huge difference between 3K guys and 4K guys.
Yep.
That extra $1,000, because you can split it. Like you can either, just upgrade someone for $1,000, obviously, but a lot of times too, when you're looking and you can add, $400 to this position and $400 to that position, suddenly you're getting a lot more upside from those guys.
Yeah.
So that's just such a big gap in pricing. It's the biggest $1,000 that there is.
Yeah. 2 Langston Galloway lineups made it into the top 10. You're not hurting yourself by being overexposed to minimal salary guys.
I'm double checking, and not that it matters, but I'm pretty sure, because I played 150 separate lineups in the $5. I'm pretty sure my best $5 lineup had Galloway and would have also been a top 10 $25. So just like another example of it.
Yeah, it's if you hit, or if you're on a chalk play that's 8K and that guy goes for 4X, you are going to have a hell of a time digging out of that hole. If you're on a chalk play that goes for 4.5X and he's 3,300, you are going to just be able to keep doing exactly what you want to do.
Yeah, my best lineup out of the 300 I played on DraftKings was 321 and a quarter, and it had Galloway.
13th.
Okay, yeah, had Galloway.
Yep. We've talked about this a little bit, but the reason that we're willing to go so heavily on those guys is because there aren't other guys that are breaking free at that salary range. It's not like there's 15 guys from 7K to 8K that are all looking like relatively similar. When you get these guys that are massive values at 4K or below, you don't have like 12 other dudes that are options in that.
Right. It just goes back to, and obviously us being on shows, like we're guilty of it to some extent too, but talking about individual players and then trying to translate it into DFS, it's tough because it's not a one-on-one thing. Like it's about what you get in your lineups. No kidding, Langston Galloway had a very low floor and probably wasn't going to do very well. I said it closing out the deeper dive with Alex last night. Like I'm playing a lot of Galloway, he'll probably suck. But it's getting to that price point and the range of outcomes he offered at that price point made your lineups have higher ceilings and be better lineups than if you just forego that price point entirely. And he was one of the best players at the price point, which was useful.
Here, I'll point something out quickly. You and I touched on this right before the show started, but since I have the data on my screen, I might as well load it up here. Move this over. People will barely be able to see this, but it's not the point. So I had Langston Galloway's target score before lock for DraftKings. He was 3,300. I needed 33 fantasy points for him to hit the target, which is, a relatively big number, but we had so much value that that's sort of where the slate shook out. I had him hitting that number 20% of the time. 80% of the time, I didn't think he was going to get to 33 fantasy points. Like, it was more often than not, I'm going to wake up and think like, oh, well, he didn't go crazy. But out of everybody else here, I didn't have a single guy in double digits. Boucher was second at 9.5. Dwight Powell, who I perpetually overrate, is at 8.5. Everybody else was at 5 or 4 or 3 or 2. These chances of getting there. I'm not trying to take shots on 2% guys. Like, I don't need that much. There's nobody else there. What is my alternative? To hope that I get John Henson right? Or Michael Carter Williams? Or, these are the guys that are in this range. You can't die on these guys. Load them up.
Right.
Load them up.
Yeah, like I'm looking at mine now, and I had out of the cheap guys, I had Galloway at 14%. I had Wanamaker at 7%. I had Boucher at 3%. I didn't have anyone else higher than like 1.
Yeah. Of everybody that I projected yesterday that was at 3,900 or below on DraftKings, just the total of my target score, I would only expect one guy to cross that line. So I don't want to get like 5% of 20 dudes. I'd rather just get 100% of one.
Yeah.
Oh God. And ultimately, Langston Galloway. God, you were terrible.
Yeah, and also, we were. I'm assuming you were. I know I was. I was guessing he was going to start.
Yeah.
So I gave him more minutes than I would have if I knew he was coming off the bench. But even then, like once they said he was coming off the bench, I didn't late swap off of too much because I still felt like he like last time Kennard was out, he came off the bench and still played 38 minutes. So that was at least still in the range of outcomes, and I felt like blowing up my lineups to get off of a $3,300 guy wasn't worth it.
Right. Like I just assumed he was going to play massive minutes one way or the other. Or at least enough minutes that 3,800 or 3,300, depending on which site you're on, wasn't going to make much of a difference.
It was still in the range of outcomes was the big thing for me. Like him coming off the bench doesn't necessarily mean anything. He can play, just a ton of minutes anyway. So knowing he still could do that, it didn't seem worth it to me to make huge changes. Like if I had known, if we had gotten news that Shabazz Napier was starting at that point, I would have just global swapped it all to Napier.
Yeah.
But we didn't have that. So it's not like there was anyone that I could really swap to that was comparable, and changing the entire construction of my lineups didn't seem very appealing.
Yeah, you changed the entire makeup. It's a very different roster construction then. Either way, Alex lining his pockets with hundreds again. So, congratulations, boss man. 250,000 to the good on DK. I don't know if you won on FanDuel. I assume you just did, because why wouldn't you?
Probably a safe assumption.
Yeah. All right, guys, hit the like button if you're on YouTube. Follow us on Twitch. We'll be doing more and more on Twitch, so be ready for that. Cool, I'm not logged in here. I'm going to drop Cash Building Blocks link into chat. This is Emacs article from yesterday. Highly recommend you guys go check it out if you're interested in more information to sign up at Yahoo. You can use the promo code AWESEMO for $30 in YSRPs. We've got 7 games to talk about. And the first one is going to be a bit of a doozy since they played last night, and I have no idea who's going to be active and who's not going to be active. You ready to get this started?
Yep.
All right, let me get logged back in. I just want to see if we've got ownership yet. For some reason I got logged out. Do we have it? And the answer is no. Okay, perfect. So, kicking it off. Let me fix my screen. And good. Pistons and Bulls. Pistons are 5-point favorites at home against Chicago. I'm treating it like it was yesterday. I don't have Blake in. I don't have Langston Galloway. Here we go. I don't have Blake in. I don't have Luke Kennard in. And Christian Wood is definitely not playing. Are you going with the same assumption as of right now?
Yeah, and I mean, it's the early game, so
yeah.
Outside of talking about it and writing about it, it doesn't really matter.
Right. I'd be very surprised if Blake played.
I wouldn't. Because I think there's a relatively decent chance that they held him out simply because it was a back-to-back.
Oh, okay, that's fair. I guess I just don't know how banged up he really is.
No, me neither. I'm just saying that I think a high percentage of the time it was probably like, yeah, you could play, but why not just sit today, play tomorrow?
They could also rule him out for the season today, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Exactly. Yeah. My point was more, I don't have a strong take one way or the other.
Gotcha. So Andre Drummond is 9,600 on FanDuel. I think that is very appealing. Langston Galloway price bump, 4K on FanDuel, 4,100 on DK.
Thank God.
Derrick Rose is 5,800 on FanDuel. Markieff Morris still just 4,300 on FanDuel. That's going to be a nice value. Talk to me about what you like here from the Pistons.
I really like Drummond. Obviously, he let people down last night, but a good matchup here against Chicago. Price tag came up a little bit, but it's a good rebounding spot. It's obviously a player who, especially if Blake is out, gets increased rebounds, increased usage, increased assist opportunities. Yeah, so I like going back to Drummond, especially if Blake's out. But if Blake's in, I think it's still perfectly fine.
Yeah, agreed. I'm guessing you're on the same page as me for like the Markieff Morris shout on FanDuel, just too cheap if Blake's out.
Yeah, no question. Also, to go back to Drummond, Chicago allowing the 8th most offensive rebounds per game this season, which is a big deal for Drummond.
Absolutely. Anybody else you want to point out on this Pistons team if these guys remain out?
Not really.
Derrick Rose,
Like,
5,800 on FanDuel, also still good. FanDuel's just, I don't know what they're doing with their prices. It's like they became early season DraftKings.
It's like they became every other year of existence FanDuel.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Sometimes I forget.
But yeah, I mean, it's
DK's
now
not
that the price.
DK's not great. For the
No,
Pistons.
I mean, like, I can see getting to Rose, but it's not anything I'd be excited about. The only thing, the only pricing that really stands out to me on DraftKings is that Drummond is just a really, really good play. It's not even that he's super underpriced. It's just that he's a really good play.
Okay. Let's move it over to the Bulls. Wendell Carter, 6,200. Lauri Markkanen, 64 on DK. This is just a team that I don't get to anymore. Doesn't make me feel all that comfortable, but I don't know. I don't get the sense that I'm going to have a lot of Chicago. 106.25 implied total is the lowest on the slate. What are you doing with the Bulls?
Yeah, I think I'm with you for the most part. They're more like large field tournament shots because the pricing isn't bad. You know, Carter's playing big minutes. It's not a super appealing spot for him. Markkanen's playing more minutes now. Last game against Washington, he was not getting the backup center minute. Well, didn't get all of them. Daniel Gafford played 11 minutes. Carter played about 34 in regulation. So only like 3 or 4 minutes at center for Markkanen. So we're back to him being much less useful. Definitely a knock against him there. If that rotation continues, it's just nothing that really stands out.
I agree with you. Like, there's upside in Levine and Carter and Markkanen, I think, but they are just GPP flyers. Anything from the Pistons look cash game viable to you outside of Drummond?
I don't think so. The Bulls played 11 players against the Wizards.
Great.
And I mean, granted, that includes 6 minutes of Shaq Harrison, but like, what? Why are they even playing 10?
Why do they do most of what they do?
It's like the Bulls could actually be a good team with this talent, couldn't they? Or
they should be better.
Not good like
they could be like the 7th seed in the East.
Right. Yeah, I mean good like not bad.
Oh, thanks, man.
But yeah,
what a wordsmith.
Yeah, always happen.
I agree, though. I mean, like, look, here's the problem. They're real bad defensively. Zach LaVine is one of the worst defensive players in basketball. Lauri Markkanen, not much better. Chris Dunn, really good defensively. Chris Dunn is the inverse Zach LaVine.
Yeah. Satoransky is
just
solid on both ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they barely wanted to play him to start the season.
Right. Which goes back to how much I hate Jim Boylan.
Yeah. Gets a little thin after that. Kobe White, Denzel Valentine, Gafford, Arcidiacono. They don't have not a lot of depth.
But he thinks that they do.
Well, when guy 5 through 13 are essentially the same sort of bad, maybe you just throw a bunch of shit against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just play your starters more minutes. Let Kobe White develop. Stop giving minutes to Arcidiacono. Yeah, I don't know. Don't have every player be a direct backup to someone else. Actually, like have competent rotations.
Yeah, not having Otto Porter hurts.
Oh yeah,
I don't mean that like in a sarcastic way either.
No,
he's good.
Yeah, another defender, another shooter.
I mean, is he the best player on the team? You know what I mean,
moment.
Right?
Yeah, definitely not the most talented.
Right. Agreed.
But kind of in the same way that at the moment, Satoransky could be like the best player on the team.
Right.
Porter.
He's the most competent NBA player.
Right.
The most likely to be on any other team in a rotation.
Not even that. Like I don't think that's the right way to put it, because like Levine obviously would be in, and so would Markin in every other rotation. But
I mean, like, if you took every one of these Bulls off individually, Otto Porter would be the first guy to slot into basically every other NBA team.
Right. Like Porter and Satoransky are probably the ones where
yes.
If some playoff contender at the trade deadline acquired them, you would be like, oh shit, that filled like every need that they had.
Yes.
Whereas everyone else would be like, oh, they got a scorer.
Yep.
Or they got a rebounder or whatever.
Much more seamless fits. That's what happens when you're more talented at this moment.
Right. Yeah. They're just more complete players.
Yeah. And they should be. I mean, Otto Porter's 27?
Yeah. Satoransky, I played
30?
in Europe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get out of this game.
That's way too much time talking about real basketball for me.
No, it's fun, man. It's fun. We don't talk about it enough. Well, we're not going to be talking about a lot of real basketball on one of these sides. Philadelphia 76ers, Washington Wizards. Sixers 121 implied total. That is very much due to the Wizards. Wizards 109. This is about as bad as it's going to get for Washington, right?
Yes.
Oi. Sign me up for some Embiid on FanDuel, some Simmons on FanDuel. Hell, I might even get to Tobias Harris, who was my bust pick yesterday, and boy, did that work out. Pace up spot for Philly. Defensively, they should have very little trouble slowing down just Bradley Beal. Of all the games on the slate, I even think like this is a more likely blowout candidate than Knicks Bucks.
We also said this like a week and a half ago, and it was a very good game.
Yeah, that's true.
Because Washington is an extremely talented offense that's the fourth best in the NBA.
I just sort of think that the Philly defense is going to be a little bit better than that. What do you want to do with the Sixers tonight?
I mean, I want to roster them. Like, obviously, there's blowout risk, but got to score points to blow teams out. They haven't ruled anyone out yet, have they?
The Sixers?
Yeah.
Not that I know of. I have everybody in.
I mean, they played last night.
They should.
Yeah, you would think. But, I mean, assuming everyone's good to go, like Embiid's a strong play again. He's $100 less than Drummond on DraftKings. He's in a great spot going up against Jan Mahinmi and AP. So, yeah, I like Embiid. It's a great spot for Simmons. He disappointed last time, but Washington's a terrible transition defense, which bodes well for Simmons. The problem is that, Simmons is Simmons. But other than that, it should be a good spot for him.
Stewie Griffin says, I don't usually like Embiid on back-to-backs. I think this one's a little bit different.
I mean, it comes with all the